morning, everybody. I'm here to talk about resilience. So ideally, as we go through life, our stresses increase and our resilience coping mechanisms increase. So we evolve. We're able to push limits we were never able to push before. You know, if you watch a little infant, maybe 4 or 6 months old, try to crawl, they have these moments of tension where they're grunting and they're almost crying. They're so fussy. And eventually they push through, they move forward, and they get really excited and they'll giggle. But sometimes it takes days, weeks for those muscles to develop and for them to really push through those moments of struggle. And that is what growth looks like for us, only life doesn't move exactly that way. So life moves more like this. Sometimes we have moments of calm when things are easy, and sometimes we have crisis that happens in our life that sweeps us off our feet, and we have no idea how to respond. So I think that we need to start thinking outside the box when it comes to resilience. We have been confronted with a global crisis, and we are referring back to local and individual resilience coping. This is not going to work. When the pandemic happened, we looked around the world and we said, who has the resources to study and to create treatment or vaccination or data around this virus? And we referred to those people to support us. And now the same needs to happen with resilience. Maybe one country is doing really well and another country is not. I read the other day that in Japan, in a particular month, there were more suicides than COVID deaths. And we need to look over to Japan and say, we hear you, we want you to be on this planet, we support you, because Japan does so much for us. So we need to move from globalization of resources to localization of resources, and we have done this. We have referred back to local businesses and local farms because plants and distribution spaces have shut down. I know we tried to order a table, and the distributor, the actual the making of the table happened in India, which we didn't understand, and it's been delayed for months. So now we're looking locally, who can make us a table? And we would be happy to support the people around us. So it's actually quite easy if we shift our mindset. But what we need to do in addition is to, instead of localize our resilience tools and individualize our support systems, we can use our tools to then globalize this. So this is what the I Am Resilient is about. It is about globalization of resilience tools. People all over the world have different resilience practices. They have different resilience coping mechanisms for the challenges that life brings them. People have different ways their families have passed down these stories, these philosophies or practical ways of being in the world. And we can all benefit from them. And I don't think that we can put boundaries on helping one another. You know, there's a lot of talk around copywriting or branding or owning a way of being, but right now we need to strip away that individualized way of thinking and instead globalize our support. So no matter where you are in the world, use the hashtag I am resilient. I'm going to start looking up different languages and understanding how to speak them, saying I am resilient, and post them. Post them for the people in Japan. Post them for the people in China. Post them for India. Post your resilience tools because people need this right now. I wanted to share a story. I had the privilege of going to Southeast Asia, Thailand in particular, about a decade ago. And it was my attempt to be my most independent self. I didn't have much of a plan, was coming from the West, had never traveled to Asia. And I found this group and we were able to travel into the mountains. And we stayed with families in huts. And we stayed in this village, and everyone in the village lived in these huts made from bamboo and wood. And they were all strung together in the same way. And we cooked the food, we learned about the trees. It was freezing cold, and we really enjoyed ourselves. And one night we were sitting around playing a game in our little hut, and it was dark, the stars were out, it was absolutely beautiful, crickets, you couldn't hear anything. And we heard this crackle, pop, 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 crackle. And we thought, what could that be? And then all of a sudden we heard yelling. Now, when you hear yelling where you live, if you live in a city, you ignore it. Coming from towns and cities, I am more inclined to sit there and wait for something to happen and think, what is going on? Let me listen for it. Those are my assessment tools. Now, the person we were with had grown up in this village. He got off of his seat. He ran outside before thinking, and he started yelling. So we slowly followed. There were a few other tourists and myself. And we go outside and walk down the little gravel path, and we see this hut burning on fire. They must have been cooking or something happened and it had caught fire. Now, our modern Western way of thinking is, oh my goodness, call 911, get the fire department here. Are the people inside okay? Like, that's as far as we think. Get the people inside out. Now, what this village did was the entire village had woken up. They had gathered their children. They had gathered the people living in their homes. They had gathered one another. They had yelled. They had created a fuss. They got everyone into the streets, hundreds of people. We didn't even realize how big the village was until we had experienced this. And now people start going inside the burning hut and getting the people out of the hut. Get out, get out, get out. Getting the family, getting the pets, getting the animals. And we think, okay, like, it's over. You know, this hut is going to burn down or something is going to happen. We're all going to sit here and everyone's safe. That's what matters. But these villages are so poor, and their homes, they've taken so long to build. They've used the trees from the earth. They have grown up here. It's their place to live. They have no other option, you know? It would take a long time to build another one. And people in the village gather around the house and start ripping the boards off of the house one by one, ripping them. No thought, just fight or flight, tearing it apart. Women going down the hill meters and meters away to gather buckets of water. They're bringing back buckets of water, and they're going into the house and putting it on the fire. And it's a 2-level place. It's huge. And there are people underneath getting scolded and burned by the hot water. And right away they yell, stop, 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 stop. Everyone, there's another person, get out, get out. And they move away from the water, but they stay in the burning house. They stay there and they expose themselves to the smoke, and they do everything that they can to save the home of this one family. And now, very, very quickly, the fire is put out. All of the boards in the house almost are salvaged. They're there, untouched, to rebuild this home. They don't have to go out in the forest and find more wood. And we, the foreigners, stood there in awe. We stood there in shame, like, why did I not do anything? Why did I not know what to do? I froze. And we stood there in reverence for the collective community that came together. Now, after this happened, we all walked back to our own hut, and we sat there in silence. And we sat there in reflection, and we sat there in solitude and in grief for what this family had lost, had gone through. But we also sat there in complete awe, having learned so much from this community, doing everything they could, thinking outside their rational mind to just get everything out of the house, get the boards off the house, and really help this one family. And I think that approaching the hopefully end of this pandemic, we all need to step out of our individualist thinking mind, and we need to use all of our tools, our strengths, our willpower, our awakeness, our energy to help those around us. There will be moments when we don't feel like we can help, but there will be many moments when we do. And I think the idea of globalization was intentionally to do this. We have one country over here and they're not doing so well. They have maternal mortality rates. They have, infant mortality rates. People aren't living very long. They don't have a lot of food. And they're picking, rocks out of their rice. Let's help them. But instead, it's become this really, really large division of the globe. We have the 99% and then we have the 1%. And I think we need to just step out of that way of thinking. We don't need to go into all of those details. We just need to think, what are my strengths? What can I use to actually help in this situation? So in this moment, I'm hoping that everybody who listens to this will take a second to think, what are my resilience coping mechanisms? When I have a problem in my life, what works for me? Post it on a video, post it in a blog, post it on your Twitter, and hashtag I am resilient. Hashtag, I will attach it here, I am resilient. And share it with everybody you can, because there will be a moment in time where somebody across the world will need exactly that tool. And I love seeing all of the different learnings and teachings of cultures happening right now on the internet, different historical practices, different uses of maybe plants or breath work or ways to change your daily routine in order to foster resilience. I think it's so beautiful that people are willing to share these practices. So keep sharing them, and I know I definitely will. You'll see meditations and yoga and journaling practices from me, as well as breastfeeding education and some children's books coming out. But what are your strengths? You have strengths. You can find purpose in sharing them. And let's put our individualistic mindsets aside if we can, and understand that by helping others, we will be helped in return. So hashtag I am resilient, and subscribe and share, please. I want to hear from you, and I am cheering you on. We are at the point in this pandemic where the boards are being ripped off the house, and we need to step in and help, okay? I believe in you. Namaste.